I survived. There was way too much going on in my life to even try to do any streams, but I did it. I got grandma in Florida, got all the elderly out of Northern Virginia that matter to me, and everybody is stocked up and prepared for the commie invasion. Yes, we're ready. We are here. We are prepared. There are factories being built as I speak along 81 where Governor Newsom, or not Newsom, Governor Northam has no state troopers. We are prepared. We've taken the call that Donald Trump put out. Let's make America great. And we're doing it. We're bringing manufacturing back to the United States. People are stepping up and doing exactly what they have to do. Now, whether this stuff is real or not doesn't matter. What's real is what's going on outside. What people are doing, what businesses are doing, what governors are doing, what mayors are doing. You know, I know that the Secretary of state said, or Esper said that it's a live drill. Well, we know what a live drill is. If you've been in the military, we drill. And then we have live drill. And the live drill is where if you stick your head up above the foxhole, you might get a bullet in your head. That's a live drill. People are shooting over top of you. So whether or not this is real, it has the appearance of real. And so I've acted accordingly. We've had a heads up since last December. I know I brought it up maybe on DLive here. Not sure. That was so long ago. I popped in, checked out things. I was keeping up with what was going on with Liberty Tree Radio through their Discord. For all those, Buckshot, thank you. Thank you for the lemons this morning. It's good to see that you're still going well. So the update is I'm okay. I'm taking my zinc. I'm taking my D. I'm taking my K. I'm using licorice. Well, that's for my fatty liver because I like alcohol. I got my whey protein. So I'm prepared. I'm doing everything I can to keep my health going. And I was practicing social distancing 2 months ago, where I was keeping away from people. I saw people around me, if they were coughing, I told them not to come by. You know, regardless of how many times somebody would call me up, say, hey man, I want to come over and talk and blah, blah, blah. I said, are you feeling not too well? And they go, yeah, but I'm over it now. And I said, you be over it for a while. You stay away. So, and all of us who have practiced this for the last 2 months, we haven't gotten sick. We took it very seriously, what was going on in China. As far as I was concerned, that is the third strike coming down on the Democratic batter, or it was the third out of the Democratic inning, or the ninth inning, third out. Is the last play. This is it. And whether Donald Trump is handling it correctly or not, who gives a fuck? All I know is that I don't have troops out in front here. I have a sheriff who's taking care of our county. I've been able to travel unobstructed for the last 3 weeks on the highway. Hey, Bucky, Bayonet. Good to see you too, Bayonet. Good to see you, Buckshot. Been able to travel on the highway unobstructed for the most part. But what's interesting, I can tell you the story about the highway. 3 weeks ago, I started to see people moving around in sort of a panic. You could see it in their eyes and what was going on. 3 weeks ago, I started seeing trucks driving down the highway with for every 4 loads, 5 loads, I'd see one deadhead with no trailer, you know, a rosebud, as somebody said. So, and then 2 weeks ago, I saw for every 1 trailer, 2 trucks going down the road with nothing. And then 2 weeks ago, I started seeing the mass exodus of Quebecians going north. And I mean mass. Where 2 weeks ago, it was for every Virginia plate I saw 10 foreigners, and 7 out of the 10 were Quebecians leaving Florida or the South. And so this last week, with my travels, what I saw was the only trucks that are around the highway had trailers. Okay? And then I saw trucks, and the trucks were all going 80 miles an hour. Now, I knew which ones were loaded and which ones weren't by when we came to a hill. The unloaded ones kept going 80 miles an hour. The loaded ones, you know, they have a problem. They start to slow down. So I'm seeing it on the highway. Now, as far as obstruction is gone, 3 weeks ago, lots of obstruction. What I mean by obstruction, you had angry people pulling out in front of you and purposely paralleling somebody else going less than the speed limit on the highway. So there was a lot of angst, anger in that regard. 2 weeks ago, maybe 2-3 times over 200 miles, I'd catch that. That's just me personally. Now, I know it goes on more than that. And then this last week, very, very few people on the highway pulling that shit. So there's a whole new breed of people rolling down the highway. And this new breed of people are getting things done. Just like I said when I opened up this DLive, there are factories that have gone into emergency production in the last 2 months. We've got milk. What do they call them? Dairies or dairy plants, I guess is the best way to put it, expanding. Now, they've been expanding for 6 months. The juice factory outside of Harrisonburg and up in before Woodstock, Virginia, has gone and done within the last 2 weeks, has already prepared the site. So they've got their site rolling, and they're ready to take on necessary items. Hey, thank you, Bayonet, for the 2 lemons. The influx of juice making. I'm seeing other type of plants being built in Harrisonburg, in Augusta County, and in Shenandoah, going quickly. Also, there's a new phenomenon. There's probably maybe close to 10,000 acres between where 66 and 64 going west in Virginia for sale along 81. So there is a mass sell off of things, and I don't know if they're suffering depression in the market. Now, I do have a house for sale up in Gainesville, Virginia, because I moved I moved Grandma down to Florida to be with my sisters, because she stepped outside sometime in November, December, and said, "The fuck with this, man! I'm done. I'm going south. I don't want to be cold anymore. You know, I'm tired of this." And so she started that ball rolling back then, unbeknownst to her what was coming down the pike, even though I was talking to her and letting her know, hey, man, you know, this is what's going on. So don't be surprised if you get whipsawed all of a sudden. Now, in that respect, I was able to get everybody who I love that listens to me out of the markets before the crash. Now, a couple of my relatives and friends absolutely brought on tears. They were crying. They were so afraid that they weren't going to get that last 2 to 3% or whatever in the markets. And of course, you know, when you're selling things into the market while it's going up, and everybody's like, hooray, hooray, hooray. But see, I already knew, because I pay attention to the indicators that matter. China had already shut down. Their factories weren't creating anything. The dry Baltic index was declining rapidly. I knew, because I have connections within the ports, that the ports were already starting to lay off people because there was a reduction in what was going on, and they knew already. The people running the ports knew that nothing was leaving the ports of Asia back in December and January, so they were already cutting back on staff, trying to keep their port running and making the ships back up. And so. And every time I talked to my loved ones and the people that mattered to me, and I was trying to explain to them, hey, you got to preserve yourself. You can go to cash and wait. I was explaining to them, I was saying, here, look at these indicators. Has anything changed? No, it's going up. And it's not going up like below 45%. This stuff was shooting up like a rocket. And of course, you know, back in December, I did a DLive where I was like, hey, this is the day that people predicted it was going to drop. Well, it was dropping then. It just hadn't affected the Dow, S&P, and the NASDAQ yet. So, you know, in a way, they're right. They were wrong. It didn't drop yet. But boy, oh boy, nothing's changed. Last time I looked at the markets, what is it called? The Dow limited down with futures. I watched Donald Trump's speech last night with what was going on. Now, I have an idea about what is going on with Donald Trump and what he's doing. The dude is at least doing what I would do. He stepped back. He took the advice of the treacherous people in the CDC, who are the same people who ran the Mueller probe, and they're the same people behind the State Department's run at him for an impeachment. And they told him, hey, Mr. President, this is just a common cold. We'll beat it. It's not here, blah, blah, blah. China is infected. And so he said, hey, don't panic. Don't do this. Don't become unhinged. It's not worth it. Let's not get our panties in a waste. Let's not shit our pants. Now let's waste our panties. And he closed activities against China coming in. And if you really watched, he didn't cut off everybody. Not everybody was cut off, but he did put out the order. And of course, what went on? The communists showed us who they were. Now, if I was Donald Trump at that time, I would have said, okay, communist judge, click, right here. Just give me a computer program with all my employees. All right, this guy's against what this order is. Click. Okay. We're giving them all 3 strikes at this point. Do they have strikes from the past? Yeah, okay. Let's look to arrest him for sedition. Because they all came out against him on TV and everything else and said, Donald, you're a bad guy because you're restricting travel from the Chinese. Well, it turns out he did the right thing. I would have been a little bit more draconian, because what did we have? We had Chinese coming over the northern borders on purpose. And we'll cut to the chase right now. The Chinese are waging war against America and Donald Trump and me. And if you're watching this live stream, they want you, unless you're working for the other side. And I've got no intel to give you. I don't have any special knowledge other than I've prepared, and everybody around me is prepared, and we've all worked together to go forward through this crap. So, if you're working for the other side, you're not getting anything special from me. You're just getting, you're getting the update. Anyway, so Donald did the right thing. And then he continued to be optimistic. And he was like, hey, we're America, we're tough, we know how to handle this. I've done the right steps. I've done everything I can to take this huge boat of an economy and turn it around. You just can't turn the American economy around like this. It doesn't happen. You can't move an army like that. Like that. You just can't. Things like that, just like an ocean liner, you have to have the vision of the curve and momentum, and you've got to do it. So when he took office, he immediately cut us off from the treacherous activities of the Democrats with these World Trade Organizations. And when he was doing that, the Chinese stepped up to the plate and said, America has stopped leading communist internationality or international. They're no longer doing what they said they were going to do with Bill Clinton, George Bush, the neocon, and Barack Obama, the Reaper. We will take the helm. We will lead the international community into the new international communist world. And so they made that promise back when Donald Trump first got elected over in Europe, that president of China did. So right at that point, they're our enemy because they're against everything that America's trying to do. And if you're trying to destroy America or stop us from being great and going to the moon, well, that's an enemy. You're not our friend, So Donald's done the right thing. He's done the old adage of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So China's promised to help prevent Donald Trump from continuing in office and to help prevent him from being reelected. And they've done everything they can. And of course, the seditious New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, San Francisco newspapers, LA County newspapers, and all the other treacherous or treasonous or seditious newspapers throughout the United States did the same thing. They all said the same thing. Hey, China, help us destroy Trump. Help us destroy Trump. Well, Donald Trump should be right there and then going, okay, let me see. That newspaper, click. That newspaper, click. That newspaper, click. All been getting the seditious click. Okay? He's not going to nationalize them. He's just going to shut them down eventually, hopefully. So there's going to get a point where he's going to stop his posture of doing the right thing with allowing the states to decide their fate, and then giving them all the support they want if they want to mow down their citizens in New York City, if they want to mow down their citizens in Seattle. Donald said, fine. You know, he's going to do that. So Donald's done the right thing so far in every step as far as I'm concerned. Now, I understand that it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. And there's a lot of people within the movement who are scared shitless because it is a time, like with any activity like this, a Stalin could arise and take over this operation and turn it on the American people who are good, the good people of America. It could happen. I understand that. So Donald Trump follows the CDC's advice. Then they whiplash him on the news and everything like that. And these same people are out there who gave him the advice of, hey, don't panic. That, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. Blah, 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 blah. So then he says, okay, my staff tells me one thing in private. They're going out in public saying another thing, like the Rosenstein's sister told Donald, nah, it's nothing to worry about, but then at the same time was having meetings within her organization explaining to people on their teleconference call, I'm prepared, we're not socializing, we're not doing the things that we're telling the other people to do, we're not going out haphazardly shopping and intermingling with people. You know, we're gonna school from home. We're already discussing it with their teachers, yada yada. I'm sure everybody already heard that. So I heard that too, and I was like, you know, Donald, it sucks to be you, but hey, they're not waging war against Donald Trump as much as they're waging war against me, trying to get me, my family, my friends to stop preparing and start acting irresponsible in the face of what's coming, because we already know that before Donald closed off the Chinese coming here, they already were here with it. We know that Barack Obama, out of the North Carolina University, sold the coronavirus to China. We know that a Harvard professor was arrested for espionage with creating a hook that helps it get into your cell through another virus or another virus. And then we know that a professor got a bullet in the head out of Canada because of his espionage. So we know that the Chinese all over their Wuhan, working with the people out of the CDC, and the same CDC people who tried to ruin Donald Trump with the Mueller situation were the ones who were involved with Wuhan, the Wuhan stuff. Yeah, it's all connecting. We all see it. So the same CDC and the same people out there telling Donald Trump to tell us not to just relax, it's okay. We're trying to get us to stand down and not prepare. Well, it didn't work, because at the same time all this shit was going on, the governor of Virginia was basically saying, hey, I'm going to take all your guns away so you can't stop me from birthing children and selling their body parts. Because that's what he was doing. The Democrats, whether they realize it or not, who want to take your guns, think that you are their property, your lifetime is theirs to do what they want, and at the same time, they want to take away your weapons so you can't stop them from stealing your life's time, and they want the right to create a baby parts mill. And they don't want you to show up with your weapons to stop them. They hate armed people. Look, I have a right to a bare arm. I'm allowed to bear an arm. That's what it means. I have the right to bear arms. It doesn't mean that I have to hide them from you because you're a snowflake. I have a right to show it to you. I have the right to say on guard. Right? Touche. Let's go. Now, the American communists have all worked very diligently to prevent anybody from standing up to somebody else and saying, no, you're trespassing. Get ready to defend yourself. I'm going to stop you with force. Because a trespass is violence. And what the Democrats promised was violence against the good people of Virginia. So that's going on too. So we see the Chinese who've promised to wage war against Donald Trump and everybody who voted for Trump. We have the communists inside the United States enacting laws to try to disarm us so they can come against us with the help of the Chinese. We have the Chinese who've been working with the Democratic Party ever since Bill Clinton and the neocon back in 1970s with through Kissinger, opening up China. And then giving China status to trade with us? That's sedition. Why are we allowing communists to trade with us? I think God does not allow us as good people to trade with bad people. There's no get out of jail free card with God when it comes to that. It's not going to happen. It's not coming. It's not coming any which way towards you. No matter how hard you try, it's not going to happen. God's not going to forgive you for excusing evil. But anyway, let's get back to my point. So Donald's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Next phase. Everybody who's a Democrat is now all panty wasting on TV claiming Donald's not doing enough to stop it. Donald said, okay. Let's do something. We're going to change the placard of our speech-making platform from the seal of the United States, and we're just going to call it the White House. And so he brings in all these seditious people behind him, and he says, this is what they want to do. I'm authorizing it. Let's continue on. Now, the press is all trying to get Donald Trump to go national with it. In other words, you have to do this on a national level. And Donald's looking at him and said, no, I will free up national help. I will use national laws so that we can take down the regulatory hurdles so that the state governors can do what they feel is necessary to control their populations. And Donald Trump has the power like that to take control of every National Guard unit in the United States of America. Now here's what's interesting. He's allowing the seditious governors of the different communist states of America to have control over their National Guard. Now he's not having, from my knowledge, National Guard from Kentucky go into Virginia right now. That is a worry. So right now, he's allowing the National Guards to deploy within their own states. So if New York State National Guard wants to mow down the communists in New York City who act like apes, and that governor says fire, and that panty waste of a mayor who went on television this weekend and badmouthed the President of the United States like a dipshit, look, he's an asshole. He thinks that Donald Trump's going to be able to snap a finger and all of a sudden the Army's moving. The Army doesn't move like that. It never has, never will. The only time it seems like a surprise is if they've been able to mass and get their supply chain in operation in secret. Now, they usually have to have an outward available decoy somewhere where you see it going on over here so you don't see this other hand. But it doesn't happen in the moment's notice. Every time I went on deployment, we were preparing 6 months out for deployments. And we needed at least, let's see, the fastest, we were always on a moment trigger, and the fastest we could deploy, and we could deploy 6 ships, was 72 hours. We could tear down our ships, our airships, in 72 hours, 6 of them, and load them on to 2 C-5As. That was what we could do. We could do no more than that, and we couldn't because we also had to keep protecting Alaska. But anyway, everything needs a time frame. And Donald's moving mountains by removing regulatory issues. He's giving orders and to the heads of people to, hey, let's make this happen. He said so on television last night. And then what did I hear? I hear assholes who are on the news, and every time they go on the news and they say, Donald Trump is lying to the American people at the podium. No, Donald Trump's not lying to the American people. If anybody's lying to the American people, it's the people who are informing Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump's up there not making up lies. He's a businessman. He's got a whole array of people behind him who he asks questions of. He tries to understand the situation, and then he comes out to the American people and he goes, as CEO of the United States of America, this is the information I have. And he goes off and tells you. He's not lying. The people behind him might be lying. Then every time a newscaster accuses him of lying to the American people without pointing out, saying, Donald Trump lied about this because we have this proof, that's sedition. That's giving aid and comfort to the people who created the Chinese virus, which is the communists within the United States, the communists within Canada, and the communists at the World Health Organization, and the communists in China. It is what it is. It's nothing else. They're giving aid and comfort to the Communist International. So with that in mind, Donald's making a list, and he's checking it. But there is a day of reckoning for what's going on. Now, for all I know, Donald's going to be able to say, hey, look, American people, look what these communists did. They tried to get you to commit hara-kiri, to self-emulate or emulate. What's it called when you kill yourself? Besides suicide? Anyway, they want you to cut yourself. They want you to practice spirit cooking. They want you to go out and lick toilets. They want you to pretend it doesn't exist while at the same time trying to create hype. Now, there was a guy who was on Alex Jones the other day, and his name was Jones, and he did a video in Hawaii where a communist got on Communist News Network in Hawaii, told everybody on Hawaii that they were overrun and overwhelmed with people trying to get tested. This guy says he's a Trump supporter, comes back from his travels supporting his business of movie making, because you have to go out and stump. If you write a book, if you make a movie, if you sell art, you got to go out and you got to go out and meet the people and gin up support. So he goes, I'm sick. So he brings a book with him, and he arrives at this urgent care in Hawaii, and lo and behold, there's nobody there. There's a person at a desk. So he's curious. He had just watched on the news, and that morning that they were overwhelmed, and so he was prepared to get in line like a good lemon, like a drone. Yeah, well, it is what it is, and I got my book. I'm ready. Let's get in line. There's nobody there. So he goes up there. He checks off, I've got a cough. I have a slight fever. I have phlegm. And they tell him to go home. We're not going to check you. He's like, what? Okay. He goes off to his doctor's office, gets checked out. Well, he's done the test. He's an intelligent guy. He's done what he wants to do, and he wants to be tested because, hey, he's got family. He probably interacts with elderly people. He was already self-quarantining. He's already self-quarantined so that he wouldn't infect his loved ones and other people, because he has a social conscience. He has empathy to his neighbor, something that these communists don't have. Just as let me just put it this way. The reason that a lot of people don't think that communists are all that bad is because they don't understand that communists are different. They're different from you. They're not the same. They are just different. They don't have compassion and empathy. They're fearful, and they view you as their enemy. If you're not willing to agree with them and give them your life's time, they want you dead, or imprisoned or re-educated. So what does he do? He goes back and he checks it out and he watches. And what happens in Hawaii? These elderly people who need to be tested because they're elderly, they hurricane seppuku, yeah, they want you to commit seppuku. Then they walk up there and they refuse to test him. And they go away. So he gets his camera, he goes up there, he confronts these people and says, why are you not testing and why did you lie about being overrun with people wanting to be tested? Why did you lie? And their reaction was to call the police. And of course, like all communists and Antifa, when they get caught in the lie and the cognitive dissonance is just so great, they go violent. So, you know, they went violent on them. So, yeah, there is a major communist action going on. That distraction that you see is not a distraction. It is the real thing. We are at war. We are at war with people who are using everything that they've got in their arsenal, and they do plan to come with bullets eventually. Now, when I don't see any state troopers on the highway for the most part for 2 weeks, but actually it's been ever since the gun rally, state troopers have not been going on. And the rumor is that 2/3 of the Virginia state troopers quit after the gun rally. They just said, fuck you, we're not going to die for a communist. And they moved on. Whether they went to other states or anything else like that, who the fuck knows? You know, I've heard the excuse that they wanted more money. So now things are okay here in the valley. Everybody is armed up. Everybody's bought everything off the shelf. Cabela's stocked their shelves with as much as you wanted to buy. They were restricting people to, it looked like it was 2,000 rounds of .223 and 4,000 rounds of AK-47 bullets at a time. So you were limited as how many bullets you could have, but there was unlimited magazines. As fast as somebody pulled a whole rung of magazines off the peg, they would put a whole new rung on there. So Cabela's stayed open, and they're still open right now, as far as I know, for those who want to buy everything you can. But they put out the word through the TV station that that background checks aren't happening very fast. And so there's a backup here. So Northam is purposely preventing people from buying any more guns. But I'll just caveat this. The only people who are going to buy guns now are the communists who realize that maybe they don't want to be communists. And unfortunately for those communists, it's a bit late. Your neighbors know who you are, and all of a sudden you want to go buy guns? I don't know. It'll only be taken away from you, especially if you don't know how to use it. You know, you might get away with surprising somebody, but odds of you fighting effectively, unless you got some sort of, you were in the military and became a panty waste afterwards. And if you were in the military and you're a panty waste afterwards, you probably weren't very good at fighting. Sort of like that guy who dressed up in his blues or his green. Well, Virginia, we called them greens. And the army officer who testified to Congress. He's not a threat. He is not a battle weary threat to anybody. He's one of those runaways, you know, kind of guys. You saw it in his actions. What was his name? His name was Bolshevik Jew, and he had a twin brother, Bolshevik Jew too. Okay. Yeah, they're the type that would go into a basement and shoot unarmed people who have their hands zip tied behind their back and blindfolds on. They're cowards. So, anyway, I know this twice now. I said anyway. That is a crutch of mine. Or All right, I'm 45 minutes into this. Let me just recap. Donald Trump right now is doing the right thing. And unless the governors of those states try to push outwards towards other states with the National Guard, or try to go into the non-affected counties in the different, I don't know if New York State counties have declared themselves constitutional counties or not, but if I was in one of those counties, I'd be closing my borders, and I would use the National Guard to keep those people in the cities from coming out of them, because those people in the cities, in New York cities, they're not the priority for anything. They're not where wealth is created. Wealth is created on the land. And it's our minds, our hands in the land that God gave us that creates wealth. And it's our ability to take His natural resources and convert them into wealth. And the people in the city are not owed anything. I have compassion for them. I'll send them as many hospital beds as I can create. I'll send them as many cans of Spam as they can eat. But God damn it, they are not owed anything of mine because they say so. They're going to get what we can give them. I am not going to have my family be threatened. And I'm not going to lower my standard of living for asswipes in the city. I'm sorry. You live in the city, that's your choice. You got to go to Starbucks and everything like that. I don't have a Starbucks a block away. That's the choice I made. I have warehouses. I have factories. I have farms. I don't owe you anything out of it. But as long as you guys can stay in your city and keep control of your people, we'll supply you what we want. And it's what we want to supply you. It's not what we have to supply you. There's nobody out here in the hinterlands that's hoarding. We've been told to prepare for 18 months. We've been told this is going to last 18 months. Okay, 18 months. So we have 18 months of raw material, 18 months of stuff so that our families can survive until this is over, so that we can keep our factories running, we can keep our mines running, we can keep our farms running, not so you can come and loot it. So I imagine that Donald Trump is sitting there, like, he doesn't have a beard like me, but he you know, what I find is funny is that when I was watching him last night, he was comfortable moving. Now, of course, I know that people are going to say, oh, he can't stand still. Well, you know what? He doesn't have to stand still. He doesn't have to stand at attention like the Surgeon General does, who was, if you look at the thing, he was like this. He was as stiff as a board. All those other people are standing still. You know why? Because they're not trying to show their real emotions and their real sedition, I think. They're committing sedition, and they know it. They're misinforming the president. That's why these people on television are saying he's lying. He's not lying. He is telling you the latest information that he receives, and he's saying, what should I, he asks them, he polls them, he goes, okay, Mr. CDC person, Mr. Surgeon General, Mr. State Department guy, what should I tell the American people? Oh, you should tell them to be positive, take care of themselves, follow our 15-day guideline, yada, 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 yada. And that's what he does. And then he gets called a liar. That just gets under my craw. But you know what? Donald's sitting there going, I think Donald can now work a mouse, or he's going, blah, blah, blah. Hey, sedition, put a check mark next to it. All right, and I know people. There's rumors that there's going to be rumors of arrest and all this other stuff. Well, you know what? If the states that are suffering, California, Washington, New York, and those National Guards turn outward from the cities and think that they're coming our way, they got another thing coming. Okay, because we don't need no stinking National Guard here in the valley. We are the National Guard. The Valley are your snipers. We up and down from the farmlands all over the United States. It's from the rural counties that the Marines and the Army get their real snipers. Not from the cities. Those guys, no. They're not the grunts. They're not the rednecks. They're not the guys who make bridges. They're not the ones who close bridges. They're not the ones who put potatoes in the grounds. No. They're not making it happen. So, Donald so far is doing the right thing. He's done everything he can not to marshal from a federal level. He's allowing the state governors to marshal what they want. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't think that a lot of Virginia is going to allow Governor Northam to marshal into our world. We can control. Everyone here in the Valley works together. There is real empathy for your neighbor out here. There's good people. There's love. So with that in mind, let me just give you guys some ideas here. Free state maps. If you're watching this D Live, if you're watching this D Live, everybody should request free maps. This is the beginning to your backpacks. Everybody should have all the maps that they can get so that you know the terrain. Now, I told everybody to get into Bitcoin a while back, blah, 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 blah. Bitcoin is the only way that you can cross a border and not get mugged. You don't even need, all you need is some way to unlock your wallet, and your wallet could be anywhere. So Bitcoin is still a buy as far as I'm concerned. I didn't foresee I was hoping for a more controlled downward trend out of the markets. I did not expect to see so much margin call. The margin calls and people flying out of what is it called? Gold, silver, ETFs, and Bitcoin to make margin calls. And then they went into the bonds, and now they got margin calls in the bonds. Didn't see it coming. Here in Virginia, here's the headlines out of my local Harrisonburg. Actors and the real people. Okay, let me see. In a matter of months, we only have 219 according to the Virginia Health site. City halls, government offices closed, what have you. It's up to you if you're going to travel in Virginia to get your sheriffs to let you give you permission. I have to travel among 3 counties. I have to travel between Fairfax, Gainesville. Well, let me see. Fairfax, Gainesville, Shenandoah, Rockingham, Fauquier, Augusta. Then, I forgot the name of the other county. What's it called? Highland. So those are the counties that I got to travel among with my stuff. I don't have anything below 64 going west, and I have no plans to go visit my other properties in other states. It's not going to happen right now. I'm in Virginia. I'm a Virginian. This is a Virginian. These Virginia colors don't run. So, we don't run. So this is what's going on here in Virginia. Now, as you can see, I'm going to update this and see if they changed it at all. I ran some info that was available based on the 1918 influenza. And what's the difference between this chart and what we've got going on is that this chart includes both influenza and pneumonia. We're only dealing with influenza with the COVID-19 cases. But we have a factor of 5 for every 1,000 of deaths, and we have the second wave is a factor of 25, which is 5 times more. And then I'm going to guess this is 13.5 with the third wave as it dies out. Now, I know that Buckshot, being in the medical world, can either say that this is bullshit, this chart, or yeah, you can expect this kind of action where you have the cycles, where the coronavirus, amongst its 5 different strains, is going to go 1, 2, 3, or maybe more. I don't know. Buckshot, weigh in on that. But anyway, let me just sit there and say this. So I ran the numbers. First wave for Virginia was if with 219 cases and we have 3 deaths, if we have 1,000 cases, we can expect 13.69, which is only 0.013% of the population dying. So, and that's with 1,000 equals 5. But I do know that here in Virginia, we've had a lot of pneumonia deaths. So the fact that they're not counting the pneumonia deaths, if you were to count in the pneumonia deaths, which I don't have that information. If anybody does, please post it to this DLive chat for me. Then I'll incorporate it into my numbers, and then I'm going to make a chart when I get the pneumonia info. I'll make a chart like this one, and we'll compare them. All you need is the Shenandoah Mountains, deer, caves, and plenty of hiding places. Bayonet, we're not hiding. It's not a matter. No, we're going to stand up to this. What's in the forest is going to disappear because we've got mountain boys that don't really stock up on anything but beer and tobacco, and they'll have moonshine to trade. But if there's a tree rat, if there is a raccoon, a possum, a turtle, a deer, they're going to be eaten. They're going to be put into the into their belly, and you'll see the deer population disappear because there is no way. Let me just tell you what. About a month ago is when I saw the last game warden come up out of here, and then 3 weeks ago is the last time I saw them stock the trout, because and they're not getting my trout because I have trout. I have there's 5 farms, so and we're talking hundreds of thousands of trout, and those are going to continue to be in the supply chain, going where they've always been going, and that is to Virginia, into Whole Foods. So that will continue to run into the supply chain that I already have, that's already been created. You had the opportunity, Walmart. You had the opportunity, Costco. You had the opportunity, Safeway. You had the opportunity, Giant, because salespeople went out and talked to you to try to get you to buy from us. You chose not to. We're at full capacity supplying the people who support us, who have been supporting us for the last 40 years. So you're not in the supply chain. It's already there. It's already made, and we're not going to change it. So you're going to have to go talk to the local guys who buy the trout. You're going to have to talk to Whole Foods, who got on board, which is Bezos. You're going to have to talk to them to try to get from them, and whatever price they want to sell it to you, that's their problem and your issue. Anyway, get back to what I was trying to say. Oh, pneumonia is a possible complication of lung flu. Right. Well, right. And a lot of times whenever the lungs fill up with phlegm and you haven't been tested for the flu, they're going to call it pneumonia because that's what they say it is. I know people who in December of last year had pneumonia and came back from it. So as far as I'm concerned, they were the people who ran into the China virus early on and survived it. Okay, so there was pneumonia going around in November and December of 2019 here in Virginia, and I've been raising my voice, so of course it's raw. I don't get to talk this much unless I'm yelling at the wall after talking to my wife. Anyway, so I need to know how many people died of pneumonia in Virginia since November, because that has something to do with what's going on. And I'm not gonna. Right, pneumonia could be viral or bacterial. Right, and they do a chest X-ray, not a culture all the time. Is that right, Buckshot? So, because my friend got a chest X-ray and they called it pneumonia. He didn't get I didn't think he got tested for it, and I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask the people I know whether they were tested virally or bacterial. So, thank you, Buckshot. That is. Okay, I'm in the know now. So that's what's going on with that. So right there, and then the next is so at 1,000 though. So at 1,000, it's 68 people dying, which is way more than 5. And then, on the second wave, wait a minute. 1369. So in the second wave, we have a higher death rate, and at 1,000, that will be here in Virginia, will be 68.45 people dying, but that will be close to a 7% death rate. And then the third wave is down to 13.5, and I actually didn't do the math on that one. I updated my OBS right before I went on live, and I also I had to do my setup again. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for showing up today. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys doing everything that you can. Let me see. All right. Doing everything you can to prepare. I hope you all took my advice and decided to prepare for this. I'm under no delusions that anybody who's listening to my advice in the past were following it. Yeah, everybody does whatever they think is best. So with that in mind, thank you very much for showing up. I hope you are all doing well. May you have a blessed day. And let's all make America great and come out of this more prosperous than ever before as we take mankind to the stars.
Men! Prepare to defend yourselves!